Welcome to Architects of Imagination, a game dev podcast where we interview some of the brightest minds behind your favorite games. Today's sponsor is Undertone Effects, a company that specializes in effects for video games. And since this is our first episode, let me introduce myself. My name's David Johnson. My friends call me DJ. And I've been making video games for 25 years now, have shipped over 30 titles, and worked on some of the biggest franchises like Halo, Call of Duty, where I was the head of Activision's Infinity Ward studio, the head of effects for 8 of my 10 years there. Currently, I am the CEO and creative director for Undertone Effects. I'm also one of the co-founders and admins for the Real-Time VFX Discord, Facebook group, and website. I'm a published author. I've contributed chapters to the books Introduction to Game Development and the Visual Effects Society Handbook of Visual Effects. And I am one of 2 people in the world currently with 2 VES awards in the real-time category. I served a 2-year term on their board of directors, and I'm currently on the awards committee for the VES. That's a mouthful, so without further ado, let us introduce today's guest. We've got the visual effects director of Naughty Dog. He worked on some of Naughty Dog's biggest series, including Uncharted and the Last of Us franchises. Eben is a game industry veteran. He got to start in 2001 on Myth 3, The Wolf Age, and has worn many hats over the course of his career. Before becoming visual effects director, Eben previously worked as a concept artist, texture artist, modeler, tech artist, dynamics artist, visual effects artist, and environment lead. It is my great pleasure to welcome my friend, Eben Cook, to Architects of Imagination.
Good to be here.
Yeah. So first, congratulations to you and the team for being nominated for a VES award for The Last of Us Part 1. It's a remake of the 2013 game update for PS5.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a really fun project to work on, to get to a second chance to improve the little things that bothered me about the first one,
Yeah, for sure. As next generation of consoles, more memory, more processing power. There's a lot more you can do. And in fact, we're both wearing suits right now because we're headed to the awards gala tonight. So good luck at the awards. And tell us, what are some of the things that you could do this time around on the PS5 that just weren't possible back in 2013 from the first version of this game?
Yeah, let's see. With more processing power, and you obviously have more of everything, which is cool. But that's just kind of like, a difference in degree. But something that was just completely unachievable in the past was something that is a visual effect, but we actually have to give credit to Artem Kovlovs. He was our graphics programming support. And he pretty much did this whole effect suite himself. We supported with textures and things like that, but it was dynamic blood. So you would shoot a character, and at the point that the bullet went in, blood would start coming out not in a predetermined way, but just in a dynamic way, and it would run down the surface of the body. And if it say like running down an arm and it hit an elbow, if it would like actually drip off of that and become a different kind of effect where it was like blood falling through the air. And then if it hit another part of the body, it would become the first kind where it would then trail down some more. Yeah.
That is impressive. It's little details like that that really just those fun little touches that we're able to put in that kind of like bring more life to it. And I get excited about stuff like that. That's crazy. I didn't see you going there with it. I didn't even know that it did that.
Yeah.
Even just like getting blood to grow is not a trivial task, but to get it to run down with gravity, depending on bone positions, and find like an apex to then fall from. Wow, that's cool.
It was wild. It was wild and subtle. Like like you didn't know it existed. A lot of people won't, but it's there. And if you happen to have that moment where it is noticeable, it's just gonna blow your mind, and it'll make you think that the world is more full of those kinds of things, and it's a more dynamic, kind of place.
Yeah, awesome. I remember one that I experienced like that back on Halo 3. I remember I had just started. I'm working on the first level, and there's a river, and I remember shooting. There's a bird flying by, and I was playing. I shot the bird out of the sky, and it splatted into two little bird bits, feathers. It dropped into the river, and then the two bird parts started floating down the river. I'm like, no way.
Yeah.
Totally unexpected. I didn't even know the engine did that.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah, that was another thing the same graphics support guy added, was the ability for things to land in water and then flow with it and stuff like that. It's amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So cool. Tell us about one of your favorite effects that you've ever had a hand in, no matter what game.
One of the really cool sequences, like game moments that it was pretty effects heavy, that I really liked was in Uncharted 3. There's a part where you're on this cruise ship and it starts to capsize and water's flooding in, and so tons of effects involved in all that. There was a lot of challenges. One more subtle thing that really stuck with me was in The Last of Us, the original version. There's early on in the game, there's a part where Tess comes in and she pours herself some whiskey, and that's in the script, and it's easy to write, but having liquid fill a glass back in 2012 or whatever, that
not trivial.
That was and I initially pushed back. I was like, can we just make the cup metal or something, and something that you can't see through, and I got to hand it to Neil, the director. He pushed back on me pushing back, and just kept asking questions, and I realized, okay, this is pretty important to him. Let me just give it some thought, and went back, thought about it, kept thinking about it, and ended up coming up with a solution. And it was one of the most fun projects, because it was a problem that I didn't think was solvable, but ended up making it work with just the shader, which, if the audience doesn't know what that is, that's like the code that determines like what does something look like on the surface. So basically you'd have that whiskey glass, and I just made code that basically made it look like there was a water level, and if it was tilted the right way, you would see the top of the water. If it was tilted the other way, you'd see the underside of the water, or whiskey rather.
Yeah.
And made it work. And then at one point later on, one of the graphics programmers was like, how did you do that? Did you do like ray tracing? And I was just like, no, there's no way. Like, to me, like, ray tracing that's something that those programmer gods can do.
Yeah.
It's not something that I can do, and then I explained, I was like, no, it's not ray tracing. It's this, you take, the point of view of the camera, and then you're like, where is it hitting on the surface of the glass? And then where would it be on the surface of the liquid and stuff like that? He's like, yeah, that's ray tracing. And I was like, oh, I felt, and I was like, oh my God.
For us,
I felt so proud. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's those little, it's those little touches too, that just like, I mean, it's a pivotal moment in the game. Like, it's important to like, just to not say no. You know, sometimes.
Yeah. That's what I needed at that time. And it really kind of taught me, as a lead and stuff, to do the same thing. Just like, it doesn't hurt to ask, and it definitely doesn't hurt to just put a little more thought into it. Yeah.
There's always, video game effects is just, 90% hackery.
Yeah.
The engine's not built for, a lot of the weird stuff that we try to do.
It's all faking it.
Yeah, tons of faking it. All right, let's go back in time a little bit and talk about sort of your early days before Naughty Dog. Can you think of even like a moment where you were just where you knew that this was it, that you wanted to make games for a living?
Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, I guess mainly in like middle school and stuff, I would just draw on graph paper. I'd draw little Mario levels and design Mario levels and stuff like that. And I was just really into, and I would do like pixel art on graph paper and stuff like that. And I was just really into video games and thinking about them and stuff like that. But I think it wasn't until high school. I think I was probably a sophomore, and I started taking computer science. And
Okay.
I had a really good computer science teacher, Bill Thomas. Hey, Bill. Yeah, he really like, whatever amount of interest you had, he was there for it. And we're still friends to this day, actually. I still see him, hang out with him from time to time. But yeah, it was doing computer science and just having that experience of like making the computer do something, and that was like all came from me and my decisions and stuff like that. I was like, I think this is going to be for me,
Yeah. And it's an interesting dynamic where, effects specifically, there's both art and sort of like math and code behind it. And that's not true of a lot of disciplines in video games.
Yeah.
Like most of the art team is going to, you'll be a character modeler or an animator, environment artist, lighter. It is very art leaning.
Yeah.
And, the code team, we don't expect them to be able to draw or paint anything, but effects kind of bridges that gap a little bit. And there's some effects artists that are proficient at both. I've known some that just lean heavy onto the art and animation side and won't, script to, save their life. And I feel like you kind of need or want sort of both of those leanings on the team. You want some guys that are super tech, focused and heavy, some guys that are art focused. Talk about your guys' team and building the effects team at Naughty Dog.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And my kind of philosophy and like the way that I would make decisions about hiring people has changed over the years. I used to really look for those rock stars that, you look for that person that you could just give anything and they would just take care of it and take a load off of me. But over the years, it's really evolved into more of like a really like hiring for the team and like, kind of meeting people where they're at, and what their abilities are and what their passions are and stuff like that, and taking advantage of those things. And wherever like someone is a little deficient, someone else that'll be kind of like their strong suit, and just make sure that like, keep things flexible enough so that, they can all work together and make up for each other's deficiencies and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, a big part of what I'm looking for when I'm hiring now is just like, are they going to be good to work with? Are they going to have like a big ego that gets in the way and like makes them a pain? That's a problem.
Yeah.
Are they going to be friendly with the people that they're working with? Are they going to like, support each other and that kind of thing?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, as time has gone on, I put a lot more currency into people that just gel well and are, have fun together. We spend so much time together making these games. It's not great when there's like antagonism but it can be a real joy too. Like there's a lot of laughter that goes on behind the scenes and jokes and lunches and drinks at the bar afterwards. And it's peak game dev when that's going on.
Yeah. And when people are feeling good and in a good mood, they're going to be more likely to like, push themselves to learn more and then like people that, if you have people that are like excited to help each other, then the knowledge doesn't stay like trapped inside one person. It spreads through the whole team and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. Back to the beginnings. Tell us how you ended up getting into game development. Did you go to school for it? What sort of led up to you working at Naughty Dog?
Yeah, I didn't go to school for it actually. So I continued, like I mentioned earlier, I did computer science in high school. Before I found that interest, I was always into art as well. And then when it came time to go to college, I had to kind of like choose a major, and so I was like, okay, art, computer science, I love them both, but art's more fun.
Totally.
And I wanted to do something very creative, and I was getting into film at the time. I was, and I was into special effects in movies, and I thought, well, if I major in sculpture, then I'm making physical things. I could go do, at this time it was still plausible to go do models in a model shop in movies and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, I love doing 3D things. I love working with my hands. I want to do that. But I had just gotten married, and my wife wasn't so hot on a fine art degree. She wanted
Get a real job.
Yeah, exactly. She encouraged me to get a more practical degree. So I went with graphic design. So like we were living in Dallas at the time, and there wasn't even much film stuff to speak of, so. Yeah, I went with graphic design, which is like company logos and stuff like that, and got through most of the degree, and just I was like, I don't want to do this, and so like I had drawing skills. I took one 3D class, which is all they offered. It was like a Maya class, and it was taught by just adjunct faculty who didn't really know Maya.
Okay.
And so I basically
taught yourself.
I took the class to get access to Maya.
Yeah. And
kind of taught myself, and put together a portfolio, and shopped it around. I did my research. Fortunately, there was a little bit of internet at the time, and found about 7 game studios around Dallas that I could shop my portfolio around to, and I got it was so lucky, so serendipitous. Like one of the phone numbers I found online was for Ritual Entertainment, Ritual Games. And I called it, and someone answered, and I was like, "Is this Ritual?" And they're like, "No, but this is a game studio."
Get out of here.
And it turned out it was a game studio across the hall from Ritual.
Get out of here.
That was started by one of the people from Ritual.
Oh man.
And yeah, and I was like, well, I'm looking for a job.
Yeah.
And they had me, bring my portfolio and stuff like that. And so that's how I ended up in there. And actually, like, I found out later, after I was already working there, the kind of the clincher in my portfolio that got me the job, and it was actually, I wasn't even sure that I would include this, but it was like something creative I had done. It was for a design class. We had to do a performance art thing, and I did a short film, live action Transformers in costumes I made out of cardboard.
Oh hell yeah!
And like face paint and stuff like that. And it sounds really hokey, and it was, but it was like, I made it as dramatic and realistic as I could, and it apparently did the trick. That's what got me in.
It's hilarious. I love it. Yeah, it's funny. Like, sometimes you do something that in retrospect is a little embarrassing, but you put yourself out there and it leads to here. So, it was worth it in every way.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think there's a fellow named Joe Waters that might have gone back to, I think, was it Relic or Ritual around that time, around that place? You don't know Joe Waters, do you? Okay. He unfortunately passed away a little while ago, but worked with him at FASA. He was a pretty entertaining dude. Tell us about games that have really inspired you.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of what inspired, I found inspirational in the past and still inspires me is like the stuff I grew up on, like a lot of the original like Nintendo titles like Zelda, Mario, Metroid. Yeah, something about they really got me hooked in, and just I really like the aesthetics of those. And then, as time went by, there are other games that grabbed my attention, like Katamari Damacy. I thought was
Super cool.
It was so fun and so playful, and just a really cool game mechanic, and the way it plays with scale is awesome. I would love to see like more of that, like just kind of like
Experimental.
yeah, scrapping like everything you thought a game was, and like yeah. One of my faves is Shadow of the Colossus.
Oh yeah.
It's just that one really that really stuck with me. Like it was just such a like pure distillation of like like a super focused idea for a game. It's like we're just doing boss battles, and having that huge landscape that I guess that aspect of it really kind of harkens back to the original Zelda, where it's like it's a lot about exploration and stuff like that. And I love like hiking and camping in real life, and it has a lot of that, just like what's around that corner kind of thing.
Yeah, awesome. And speaking of weird game concepts and things, one of my favorite at GDC every year, there's two that are just must see exhibits for me. One is just the indie game section. It's just fun to see what the upcoming students are doing in weird spaces. And then, oh my goodness, alt dot control or whatever. I don't know if you're familiar with that one, but it's a little area, and they've got you can every game has to be with a non-traditional controller, and do the stupidest stuff, the most amazing funny things. There was a caterpillar game where the controller was you got in a sleeping bag and you like squirm around. There was a haunted couch game where you getting up and down from the couch was the mechanic. There's just like such crazy, wacky. There was a VR game called like I forget the name of it, like Defuse This Bomb or We're Both Dead.
Oh yeah,
and one person's in VR.
That,
like just some of the coolest like weird ideas are in there, and like to me that is super inspiring. I love to see that.
Yeah, totally.
Every year. Tell us what you're playing now, playing lately. Do you have a favorite game out that has been sucking up your time?
Yeah, this is like the question that I always fear, because like it makes me feel like a fraud being in game development. It's like I just as time goes, it's gone by. Like I just play games in my free time less and less. But I mean that's not to say that I don't play at all. I do play. A lot of what I play lately is I play games with my kid. And we like a lot of like 2-player on the same screen kind of games. Unravel Unravel 2 was a great game for that kind of thing, and we play a lot of Nidhogg.
Oh, dude, Nidhogg.
Yeah.
Towerfall. Have you played Towerfall? That's a good couch co-op. You can do it with 2 players. It's sort of better if you have 4. But it's like original NES graphics, awesome. And you're just kind of jumping around like fighting each other. It's
I'll definitely check that
and fun.
Out. Yeah.
It's so great. You can get it on PlayStation.
Sweet.
It's so awesome.
Yeah.
Let's look into the future a little bit. How do you see games changing over the next 10, 20, even 100 years, either in terms of how the industry is changing or what tech is going to do in video games? What are things that are just impossible now that you're excited that we'll be able to do down the line?
Yeah, I love thinking about that kind of thing. I mean, it's super hard to predict, but I mean, you have a sense for like what's just over the horizon, Like I'm looking forward to, just with more processing power and memory and stuff. Just having more like real-time simulation stuff, just bringing more dynamic quality to games, kind of like the blood thing we were talking about. But just like more like doing real-time fluid sims, and I can imagine like games having that as like a big part of the game mechanics and stuff like that. Like you imagine like, you set fire and it's spreading on things that are flammable, and you maybe can like direct the fire with wind, and then you can put it out with water and stuff like that. There's just a lot of, I think, potential with real-time simulation stuff, and that seems like that's just an obvious next step. Is the only thing between us and that is just how much can you do in a few milliseconds,
Yeah, that is our constant. No matter how powerful the consoles and PCs get, we're still constrained by either 33.3 or 16.6.
Exactly. And like and wanting to go higher frame rate, we're squeezed even more, So.
Yeah, VR suffers from that, where you want to hit 90 or 120 frames a second, which is like 8 milliseconds to draw.
Yeah.
The whole thing. It's
crazy.
It's crazy, yeah.
But I mean, and then like one thing that the big wild card when you're thinking about the future is clearly AI. Like, further down the line, AI I think will be a big part of the runtime itself. Assuming that processing keeps expanding and stuff like that. But even in the near future, I think it's going to change a lot of the development process, like all the stuff that we do offline to prepare data for the game, we can make use of AI, but even like things like up-resing, even in runtime and stuff like that, I feel like, I'm no expert, but I feel like that's not too far off, using AI in real time to add detail or even just anti-alias, or like, reduce noise from, lighting stuff and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think some of that tech is already coming into play now. Like DLSS is the new RTX cards, the 30 and 40 line now, and the latest generation of consoles both have ray tracing, and so NVIDIA's name for it is DLSS, where they're doing like scene up-resing, because it's hard, like it's more computationally expensive to ray trace a whole scene, so they can't do it as high a resolution as people want.
Right.
So they found that like the trade-off of frame rate versus quality is better if you ray trace it so it looks better, but not at full resolution, and then up-res it the rest of the way.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, we're there now, fortunately. And yeah, there's some controversy too about machine learning and AI models. Personally, I'm kind of excited about there's ethical implications with artists whose work models have been trained on without their permission. But say we solve some of that. I'm excited for a day when, maybe, you look at what's going on, people are prompting Chat GPT to come up with a text that then generates an image in Midjourney.
Yeah.
Like, this stuff is going to make its way into real time at some point. And, it's going from 2D imagery now to 3D models.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see, like, way out 100 years.
Yeah.
This isn't 10 or 15, but like when a game designer is more just like expressing ideas than going in and like actually like, modeling character and texturing it. They're just like imagining the things and figuring out how to express those ideas.
I want to springboard off of that and take it maybe even further into the future and say that designer is going to be the consumer of the game. And it's like, it will use, whatever kind of feedback it can get, and, whatever it can gather about like what you're interested in and stuff like that. And that will feed into the system, and then it produces what you want.
Oh man, that's crazy. I love that idea. Like, people are crazy for cosmetics and, customizing their character and let it be unconstrained. But like, is it possible to even tap imaginations. There's research going on now that is reverse engineering dreams into visual imagery. And it's just the beginnings of that.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for where this is all headed.
Yeah.
Let's take a tangent into people who want to come up into the industry. Training is super important. What would you say to what are common issues that you're seeing in demo reels that are coming in that you wish like people would focus on this before submitting?
Yeah, I mean, you could probably look at like at a lot of demo reels across, all the people that are searching for a job right now, and probably find some common things that would probably be things to avoid or something like that. But I think more important than that, just like what shouldn't you do is like my advice is always like more in the positive track of like what should you be doing, and the answer for me is just like find what really excites you. Find what if you've narrowed it down to effects and stuff, like what within effects gets you really interested, and then let that drive you and motivate you to teach yourself new things, and use choose projects, like personal projects that you are really excited about and you really want to do, because that's going to drive you to put the most time and effort into it, and you're going to learn the most things, because you'll learn things that are in service of that vision, and it'll feel effortless because it's something you really want. And then just that kind of passion and stuff really comes through, and that's kind of like what I'm looking for when I'm hiring, anyways.
All right, yeah. Awesome. We're running out of time. I'd like to thank our sponsor again, Undertone Effects. Thank you to Eben Cook for joining our first episode of Architects of Imagination. I also want to thank our founder and executive producer, Martika Ibarra and team. Thanks to all the viewers. Be sure to tune in, subscribe to the YouTube channel and where all good podcasts are found. And you can follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/undertone_DJ and at Twitter at undertone. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. Thanks again, Eben, for joining us. This is Architects of Imagination.